Living in the end is often misunderstood, I think, because if you're pretending to be that version of you that already has what you want, you have to be actually feeling it like you already have it. Do you really feel that you already have it? You don't need to do this. I'm going to give you something to do which is so simple, and it's exactly the same, has exactly the same impact. Because the only way that living in the end works is when you truly believe it, that you already have it, that you know it's within, you're going to see it at some point on the outside, you're not stressing about it. Imagine you had this already, whatever it is that you want. Would you be thinking about it all day and trying to find the feeling of it? No, you wouldn't, because you'd have it and you would just be living your life and doing your day. And if you thought about the situation, you'd have it. So you'd have a different kind of feeling than trying to feel something that actually you're not experiencing at the moment. And also, if you are trying to work with gratitude, which I don't, I'm not saying that I'm not grateful for things, but it's not something that I bang on about really. Don't then think you've got to be grateful for something that you don't already have at the moment. You're being grateful for something that isn't here yet. Just be grateful for what you do have, that you are grateful for anyway. Just remind yourself how grateful you are to have your lovely house, to have your friends, to have your family, whatever it is. You can use gratitude that way, and it's exactly the same feeling. You don't have to be grateful for something you don't already have. So right, we've got that out of the way. The reason that sort of living in the end doesn't work is because it's actually a different energy. So what you want is the energy, the energetic equivalent of that thing that you want, and you don't get that by forcing, you don't get that by push. It's like the backwards law, if you've ever heard of it. The more you push, the more it pulls. That is what happens when you're doing that, and that's why you often see no results, or the opposite of what you've been manifesting happens. So it's about finding that feeling in another way, in a way that works for you, in a way that works for everyone, really. It should be able to work for everyone, this. And don't be afraid of it not being enough, because I'm going to bring you back to things you've manifested in your life when you have just had a brief thought or a feeling and it's happened. What did you do? You caught yourself in the feeling of it. You caught yourself in the energetic equivalent of that thing that you want. So you became that thing. Exactly that for maybe a few seconds, probably not very long at all when that sort of thing happens. So that's what you want to look at doing, catching yourself in the feeling of what you want. How do you do that? There are several ways to do it. So you can either think, if I had this right now, if somebody came along and waved a magic wand and said, there you go, it's yours now, how would it feel? So you just sit with that feeling. How would it feel? There's no right or wrong. It's how it would feel to you, how you think it would feel. That's all it is. How do you think it would feel? Bear in mind, you are you. You are your subconscious mind is you, okay? It's all part of you, so it knows what you're doing. So if you're thinking, oh, how's it going to be translated? It's not being translated by anything. It is you. What you're thinking and feeling is you, and your subconscious mind knows that. So that's all you need to think about, really. There's no right or wrong way to do this. You can just feel it, like think about the situation, just sit with the feeling of the situation, whether it's a person, a job, a car, whatever it is, friendship, do it that way. Or you can go, I just really want this. I really feel that desire for it, not bringing anything else in other than the desire for it. And as soon as you feel that going or anything else creeping in there, you stop. And when you stop, the key thing to do when you stop is distraction. I'm going to distract myself in this moment. So think about something completely unrelated to that manifestation, to that situation. Anything, some other thing that's going on in your life, think about that. So you're immediately distracting yourself, taking yourself away from what you're doing. So not messing up that energy because you've moved on to something else. Or you go make yourself a cup of coffee, you go make yourself a cup of tea, you read something, you look at something online, you read your emails, anything that's taking you away from the moment, taking you away from that particular energy and moving on to something else. So you've distracted yourself in the moment. So those few minutes after you've done it are kind of all important, because that's when we get stuck on things. We can't let it go. We do it and it feels good, but then we linger in it and it changes and that energy changes. So then far from the energy of the thing that we want, we've become something else. We're catching ourselves in the feeling of something different, of the feeling of actually not having it and trying for it and looking for it. So that's what you want to look at doing, that immediate distraction technique in the moment. But walking about all day long pretending that you have something that you don't have is probably going to cause you a ton of resistance, and it isn't going to feel pure, it isn't going to feel natural. And what you're looking at here is a natural feeling. It's a natural thing. It's not the unnatural that manifests, it's the natural. And when it feels natural, that is all that we need. Now, that's not to say if you are a person that really can live in the end and really feels it real, as if it is real, you're going about your day and you're not thinking about it all of the time, and when you do, you really feel like you already have it, that's fine. I would never say stop doing that. That's never a bad thing. I mean, Neville talks about that. That's what Neville could do. And he did that with flow. So that's cool. Again, I'd never say don't do that. But if you don't feel that, if it doesn't feel natural, if it feels wholly unnatural to you and you really feel like you're forcing it, that's the time to stop. Because actually, what you're probably going to do is do yourself more harm than good, because you're going to get really hung up on the result. You're not going to see it. And then you're probably going to start seeing the opposite things happening. So then you'll be plagued with frustration as well, and disappointment and all of that. And you'll be constantly observing, waiting for a change based on something you're doing that you would call manifestation, when actually you are manifesting, but you're manifesting what you don't want. You're continuing in the same energy that you've been in, and that is not the energetic equivalent of the thing that you want. You're not becoming what you want. You're becoming what you don't want, not becoming what you do want. So that is my take on it. And I've tried living in the end when I first got into this, and I thought, I can't do this. This is ridiculous. Ended up feeling rubbish. And that can be what ends up happening, but it isn't necessary. There are all manner of ways to change your life and to manifest what you want. But there are all manner of ways to do the opposite. So this has always been my rule. If it feels good, do it. If it doesn't, don't do it. If you stick to that, you really can't go far wrong. And actually, all it really takes is a strong desire for something to have it show up in your life, because you would have seen it. When you just have a strong desire for something and you don't think it's possible necessarily, you don't bring all the other stuff of why it's not possible into it, because you've just had this desire for it and you really don't think it will happen anyway, and then it ends up happening. You think, that was huge, but I must have had resistance there. Well, yeah, you probably would have done if you tried too hard. That resistance would have come in, but because you didn't think it was likely, none of that came in. So it was a pure feeling of the desire for it, which is the energetic equivalent of it. You were becoming it in that moment. My biggest things that I've manifested, and when people say, they'll come to these videos occasionally, I'll get a comment like, this is nonsense, it's rubbish, people shouldn't believe this stuff. I think, well, you're just dissing somebody else's experience. Like, it may not have worked for you, but you know, I've had huge things happen that seemed so highly unlikely and have happened really fast, and have happened through just having a really strong desire for it and just knowing that I just want this, and then it's happened. So nobody can dismiss anybody else's experience. Our experiences are ours. They're nobody else's. So that's what I've found, and I do believe it's because you don't think it's likely, so you don't bring in that resistance. It doesn't become dominant because you're not bringing it into the equation, because you don't really think it will happen. But again, it's not necessary to go around living in the end, wish fulfilled, act as if. None of that is necessary, but you can get that feeling by just catching yourself in the feeling, and we do that naturally. That's why some things manifest so quick, because we've naturally done that. We've caught ourselves in the feeling and off we've gone, living life, distracting ourselves, doing other things, and then it happens. I hear so many stories. I've got clients that manifest so easily, like so well, career, houses, cars, all of that stuff, friendship stuff. But when it comes to relationships, they're stuck. They're stuck because they think that relationships are harder because that's a person, that's love, and that means you've got to mess with a person's mind, but you don't. You're not messing with anyone's mind. All you're doing is selecting a reality that you want to experience, and that's all that you would have done with the other things. And this is no different. Just see everything is level playing field. Everything is a green jelly baby. There are no different colours here. The universe doesn't see anything different. It's all energy. Everything is energy. You select the reality you want to experience. That's what you end up experiencing. That's been my experience over the last 10 years. is when I've focused on what I want and I've just thought, no, that's just what I want. That's what I want, and that's that. That's what I've ended up experiencing at some point. Maybe I've taken action, maybe I've taken inspired action along the way, maybe I haven't. In some cases, I've done nothing. And then opportunities have landed on my lap. And then I've had to go with those opportunities and ride with them and take some action. But the actual opportunity came out of the blue, right? Thanks so much for watching. If you don't know anything about me, I'm an author, manifestation coach, mindset coach, and a self-concept coach.